Got a high five.
Come on. Inside the 10. Heads first. He dives inside the 5-yard line.
Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
Davis gets maintained and McCaffrey with a 19-yard reception. But Terrell again for at least 19 and more than that. Inside the 10, touchdown Denver.
All week long, Marty Schottenheimer talked to his
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Mundungus Creevy, joined today by Glenn Hauser and Cameron Parker. And we're hoping that Zach Segars is going to join us. But I'm thinking that it's not going to let him join from his phone, which, if you know us, is probably a good thing anyways, because we never have good luck doing anything on our phone. So that might be a good thing. But make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, and turn on notifications so you can get alerted anytime we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, tune into all of our other podcasts. Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. The MHRT podcast every Thursday at 7654. And the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast every Friday at 7654. How's everybody doing today?
I'm excited to see what team shows up here. I mean,
it's going to be the Chargers and the Broncos.
Well, I'm too excited about the Chargers team. But I mean, they played hot and cold all season. You know, like they come out the one game, you know, throwing up 40s and such, and then bomb out the next game. So hopefully last week was their big game, and they bomb out this week.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this. I mean, it's really hard to really just piggyback off what Glenn said. You have no idea which one you're going to get, which version of the Broncos you're going to get. So I mean, yeah, it'll be. I guess that's the fascinating part about this. Maybe why Glenn and I are so excited, because it's like opening up a gift on Christmas. You have no idea what you're going to get. just hoping it's not a bag of socks, or you know,
it's like a horrifying excitement is what it is.
Right, exactly.
So let's take a quick loop around the NFL right now. So we got Cincinnati and Pittsburgh at halftime. Cincinnati's up 31-3. Indy is leading the Bucks at 24-14. Miami's up 21-10 on the Panthers. The Patriots are beating the Titans 16-13. The Giants are up on Philly 3-0. Atlanta's winning 14-3 over the Jaguars, and Houston's up 14-11 over the Jets. So I don't think really anything surprising there, except maybe Cincinnati. I didn't figure they'd score that many that fast.
Well, I just think overall Cincinnati's, more importantly, Zach Taylor's showing that you give him a really good quarterback, which is everything that everybody sort of anticipated in the future with Joe Burrow when he got there. But I think that, you know, Cincinnati's a team that I think that a lot of people were wondering, you know, where would they be? And I've actually been very quiet as far as, you know, with my Cincinnati fandom. Maybe that's just because the Nebraska coach in Zach Taylor. But it's just
mainly because they've been terrible for the last 20 years.
But you know, it's just one that I think you saw sort of the tea leaves with that. And I think that there were so many question marks with, you know, should they have gone Penei Sewell? Should they have gone, you know, Jamar Chase? And they actually went out and got Jamar Chase. And there probably could be some future flack, you know, whatever Sewell ends up turning out to be. But Jamar Chase is looking probably like the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I mean, now you're talking about giving Joe Burrow, a guy that he's had plenty of comfortability with, you know, dating back to his time with LSU, and also an offensive mind coming from the people of Sean McVay, and a division, let's be honest, a division that is almost like the NFC East. You have no idea who could potentially win it almost every single year. So the fact that it's been this wide open and they have the amount of talent, the offensive talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, it just seemed like this was a long time coming for Cincinnati. So hopefully Joe Burrow doesn't end up turning to be like a Carson Palmer, another number 9, and sort of gets run out of town, if you will.
Yeah, I am such a Joe Burrow. I got to say, I'm such a Joe Burrow fan. I mean, the guy is just so cool. If any interview with him is worth watching, and if you have any sort of mystery as to why they picked Jamar Chase instead of Sewell, look at when they were mic'd up together and they were busting each other's chops, and that relationship was so solid, and they were goofing around, and it was like, yeah, see that blue thing over there? That's the end zone. Why don't you try getting in there? Stuff like that. It's and that is the type of things. These relationships are invaluable, and we saw that with the Broncos coming into this season, how tight this team was, and it's paid off in some instances, and in some it hasn't. So, I know this isn't a Bengals podcast, but moving on. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to say, kind of speaking of where you guys are going with Jamar Chase and wide receivers, we weren't able to get on a podcast on Thursday because it was Thanksgiving, and we're not going to do that. But we did have Sutton and Patrick get re-signed or get extended. And that kind of goes into, what Cameron was talking about before we came on, was Peyton rewarding players that are on the team and have been on the team for a while, which we haven't seen before. That wasn't a big priority, I don't think, when Elway was GM. But it looks like that's something that Peyton has really wanted to do, is extend the players that have been here and that have been fighting through the seasons that we've had over the last 5 years.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, at least for Elway, we had seen it once with Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. Like he did it for the Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but the issue there was just the Broncos were unfortunately just not doing well at that point in time when they were rewarded. And so at the moment of once they reward the contract, well, then it was just became, well, then it's time to put them into this situation once they had an expiring contract of that next team. And so it was just, so I think for Elway, he would reward the wide receiver position. It was just some of the other positions and so on and so forth of who he could have rewarded. But I think that it's great, especially for a first-year general manager to come in and understand your core players. And that's something that he talked about even in the very first episode with the Behind the Broncos. And again, if you guys have been living under a rock for the handful of months and you guys have not seen the Behind the Broncos stuff on YouTube, or just any stuff that got shared from the Broncos regarding that, I would highly, highly recommend seeing that, because it's not exactly, your Hard Knocks per se, but for the Broncos' sake and not wanting to be on Hard Knocks, it's great. Like it is absolutely must-watch TV. And so there's a part in there where he doesn't necessarily talk about Tim Patrick, but he talks about Courtland Sutton and talks about the importance of him. He talks about how valuable, probably the most valuable piece that they had to defend when they played Minnesota. So it's just like there are different tea leaves that you could have seen from the potential re-signings of Courtland Sutton. The Tim Patrick one was a little bit fascinating, but say come the regular season, I think the one thing that was just so surprising for me was, okay, they re-signed Tim Patrick, and then everybody made all their assumptions, that was just like, all right, I guess that just means they're going to have, 4, 5, 6 months, to finally lock up Courtland Sutton or franchise tag him or whatever. And then it just became, all right. So that's in essence, well, it wasn't really a doubt, should I say, that they were going to bring Sutton back. I guess the surprise was, one, Tim Patrick was signed first.
Yeah.
And two, that Courtland Sutton was literally during the season as well as Tim Patrick. So the fact that, you have George Payton doing things and bringing them in for truly what they could have been potentially worth, in the offseason. Basically, I would just say he signed Courtland Sutton, should I say, for potentially a deal that Tim Patrick might have even received in the offseason. So I think that just puts into perspective how incredible these deals are.
To piggyback.
Hold on, Glenn. Hold on. I want. We got Zach jumping in and out, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens, and if it breaks, Blame Glenn.
I'm blaming Johnny.
He just hopped out, so I don't think it's gonna work. Go ahead. Wow, hold on. He just jumped back in again.
Okay.
Look at this.
Zach, you there?
Look at that beautiful phone. It's an amazing.
Look at
that.
It's amazing.
I did not know you could go live on a flip phone, but Segars the show. I was right. You can't.
Which is in some ways disappointing because Zach actually has an iPhone.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it's like a Restream doesn't like doing it from phones, which is fine because, like I said, we have not had good luck podcasting from phones, so that's okay. So Zach, it's all right. I appreciate you trying to jump in. We'll try to get you on another time if we can.
I hope he doesn't think he's getting paid for this today with that kind of performance.
But get paid with compliments. Are you in on audio? That'd be a no. Okay. So hey!
I was doing only audio, but that was acting really weird. So here we'll do.
He's even got the shade. Jeez,
the shades, the hair. God, man.
He's got the sports jacket on.
I don't have any hair gel though. I didn't pack. I just got in from.
I woke up like this,
and I didn't pack any. Oh no, man! I haven't gotten a haircut in months. It's gonna be rough. This is a. I'm not looking my sharpest this game, but I've been looking sharp for the other ones, and we've been terrible. Hi, Carolyn. What's up?
Hey, Zach, as someone who's been bald since I was your age, exactly. This is not. I don't need the woe is me. I haven't gotten a haircut. Okay, come on.
Hey, man, great tubes nowadays.
So what's the atmosphere like at the stadium today? I was a little concerned about the lack of interest in people coming to the game. What's it looking like?
There was a steep decline from the Raiders game to the Washington game. It was pretty bumping. This time I got going late, like really late. That's why I'm joining this late in part. And the traffic was non-existent. The drop from the Eagles game to this one has been another big step down. I think I could be easily surprised when I get in there, but I think the stadium, and it's never that empty at Broncos games, but relatively speaking for a Broncos game, I think we're going to see a pretty empty stadium here.
Well, and I will say this. I saw somebody that was selling their tickets. It was like section 100, like right down there by the field. And they were trying to sell them for like $100 and nobody was biting.
Yeah, people are finally upset. I think a lot of people have finally reached their breaking point with the 6 years. Like they've just finally snapped and they're done with it, which I think is a kind of a bummer because the Broncos' best option, unless they can get Rodgers or Wilson, I think would probably be to slow play and build this thing up the right way rather than trying for the 6th straight year to like, all we need to retool is to retool and then we'll be in the playoffs. Like, no, do a proper rebuild. Build around, you have a solid young core, you have some foundational pillars, build their thing the right way. I think that's what they should do if they can't get Rodgers or Wilson. But I don't think the fans
Avatar says no profit today. We've been trying. We've been having a technological disconnect on either end, so we're working on it.
He's in Zach's back seat.
I'm the one getting crap. I'm the one getting crap. No mention of profit. This is
no, because your name was in the description.
And also your name is not Prophet. Okay. Like, well, on the bad side of someone named Prophet. But Zach, I got to ask you, because you're somebody that actually has media credentials and it's, can you like give us an idea of what your day entails on game day from start to finish?
Oh man, it is great. I got to tell you, this is honestly the best part of the job. Definitely as a Broncos fan who's always wanted season tickets, but like, growing up, it was like I get to go to maybe one game a year, maybe like a preseason game. That element of it is a blast, and they do want you to write nice things. I feel like they take care of you. There is a pregame meal that is pretty solid. It's not like stadium food. It's like whatever. I'm trying to think. Like last game, they did like a Thanksgiving deal. They had like turkey and ham and mashed potatoes and gravy and stuff. They've done like prime rib and stuff before. It's they hook you up. And then at halftime, they always have like hot dogs and shoot, what else do they have? It's not chicken tenders. It's not hot wings. It's like hot dogs and I don't know, some other stadium food. I don't know why I'm blanking on it right now. And then they also have like a little post-game meal. I don't really do that one. It's just like for people to have something for dinner on their way home. I think it's been like a slice of pizza. That's more like stadium food, but they hook it up. They're nice to you. But so what I'll do is I'll hang up with you guys here in a little bit. I'll walk over to there's like a media booth on the north side of the stadium. I'll pick up my credential. I've got to send my stuff through a metal detector. And then I go in kind of under the stadium at field level, and I get on an elevator and go up to the press booth, and just plug my computer in and get all my notes in order, so I'm ready to fill in stuff as the game goes on. And just that's pretty much it. And then it finishes up, and I'll go and meet up with people that tell me that they're around.
So I was going to say, like, how dare you leave early? But I will trade you at any point.
Do you write as the game goes on, or how's your writing style? I'm just curious how this whole you got the story.
Yeah. So I do that even with the road games, because my column wants to go up, pretty quickly after the game. 30 minutes to an hour or so. And so it's tough. It's really tough because you don't know which way the game is going. So I'll organize my notes. The column I write every week is ups and downs, like players that had a good game, players that had a bad game, relative to what you would expect out of them. And so I'll organize my notes in that way. And as like a good thing happens, I'll write the player and I'll note it, and I'll start building, on Word or whatever, the bulleted list, like a list of different things. And I add in a ton of details about every play. Like, they did this, here was kind of the situation, and like extra notes about the play or whatever. So it's very easy for me to go back and reference things. And when I am starting to get a feel for how the game's going to end, I will start writing my piece. And that this season has been like about halfway through the third quarter that I feel I'm just optimistic, and I keep being like, they can come back. The comeback's still possible. I don't want to start writing the piece yet because they can come back, but they haven't come back once. So I think I'm starting to learn my lesson.
A comeback's still possible. Slade picks up the third.
Well, I was just going to say
that's the thing. The moment that happened, I was like, time to start writing the piece, and so I'm
delete. Yeah.
I was just going to say, though, the worst, and Zach knows this being a writer, but just when you're on a deadline, and like, let's just say Zach was covering the Los Angeles Chargers game where Drew Lock came, and they were down like, what was it, 24-3. They came back and won. The worst is when you sort of have the inkling in that third quarter, okay, the Chargers are going to absolutely, come in and, roll over the Broncos, that kind of thing. And then you're starting to scramble after the third quarter to write your deadline again, because of it's. So, yeah, I feel it.
No, Cam's totally right. It's that's one of the toughest parts. I actually think that Chargers game is the only time I've really had to rewrite an article. But it's not fun. That was because it started off as a like real Drew Lock rant, because that's when I fell off the bandwagon, and then he had the comeback, and I was like, okay, maybe, because that second half was, I think, his best half of football of the season up to that point. He had like his worst and best half, so I was like, okay, I'll give it one more week, and then he had the Falcons game, which was dreadful, and I was off for good.
One more game.
But I will say this. I have this theory about the Broncos. I'm going to test it today. I think the Broncos are pretty impossible to predict because they're such a Jekyll and Hyde team. They're either a good team that can beat almost anyone or a bad team that can lose to almost anyone. And it seems like a total coin flip. Who knows which way that coin is going to turn out. I think so. It's impossible to predict during the week leading up to the game. I think you can tell pretty quickly, like 5-10 minutes into the game, it's like, oh, it's the bad Broncos. Oh, it's the good Broncos. So I'm putting that theory to test today. If there is some change after the first 5-10 minutes, bad theory on my part, but this is the hypothesis. I think it holds up for like 9 of the first 10 games. I think we'll see it happen again today. So fast start.
Guys, is there any chance that they subject Teddy to boos and introduce the offense today? I just can't see it. Do you?
I don't know.
Oh, they've been doing before. Sorry, Cam. I've been talking too much.
No, I was just gonna say. Now you realize, Zach, that doesn't take away the score predictions you and I had on Friday. You realize that?
Oh, 100%. I'm still predicting. That was my mid-season predictions. But I have to write columns about it too. This team's so.
No, you're good.
Because it's like I can see them winning. I can see them losing. Yeah, every game. This Broncos team this year just is not a comeback squatter. And once they have the lead, they do a good job of playing with it.
Yeah.
But as for the boos, I think they definitely will subject Teddy to boos. They've been doing it already. And again, like, I don't get the vitriol at Teddy. Like, yeah, he's not the solution. He's also the best quarterback we've had in 6 years. He never was the solution. Shot he would do in the offseason. Exactly. The plan was that the rest of the roster would carry him. The rest of the roster isn't carrying him. Now, it's hard to blame the rest of the roster for that, but it's like, that's the part of the plan that isn't working. Teddy is, on balance, having a good season for Teddy Bridgewater. Not for an NFL franchise quarterback, but for Teddy Bridgewater, it's a solid season. So I fault either A, the people who made the quarterback room a quarterback that the coaching staff has no interest in starting, and Teddy Bridgewater, because then you only have Teddy Bridgewater, and that's a problem. Or B, the rest of the roster, because that's what's not living up to the preseason expectations. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and we'd had established from the beginning, like, Teddy Bridgewater is a quarterback that needs yards after catch and that needs a good defense to slow the other opposing team's offense down. And we're doing neither one.
Yeah, and I think that right immediately to piggyback off of everything Zach talked about, we should have realized that the minute that the deal got restructured from Teddy Bridgewater from basically 3 quarters, like everything from what it was to basically just that 1-year deal of $3 million. We should have realized that at that point that Teddy Bridgewater was not really the guy, but a guy that was probably enough of a stopgap for whatever it was that the Broncos potentially would have wanted, whether it was in the draft in 2021 or, potentially in the offseason or, Aaron Rodgers to Russell Wilson, whatever, anything else. I mean, so, yeah, we should have realized that. And it's just, I think for my sake, I guess, it is a little bit frustrating at times, because I mean, like the stuff that you see on, third downs and stuff like that is an amalgamation of a few things. Sometimes it's been Teddy, sometimes maybe even more often than not, it's been the offensive coaching staff. So it's just been, for my vantage point, it's great to see Teddy Bridgewater be 1 touchdown away from his career high. I mean, we should be celebrating that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So, and it's just like, we should be celebrating that. I mean, like, Teddy Bridgewater's having a career year. Granted, it's not basically, maybe to some person's degree, not passing the eye test. But the fact is Teddy is, playing a little bit better than I think people are giving him credit for.
To paraphrase George, when he said, we're 4-4, but it feels like we're 1-7. We're 5-5, but it feels like we're 2-8. Why do you guys think that?
You want to go, Zach?
Yeah, I think people are just fed up with the losing. It feels like a breaking point. I think also there's kind of a hopelessness. It's like Keenum or whatever, where it was like, we know Keenum's not the guy. We know Flacco's not the guy. But even when they had Flacco, there was the hope of the young quarterback. And I think you see that a large portion of Broncos country still holds on to that hope that Drew Lock could be the guy. And I think they're clamoring for that optimism, and it's being kept away from them. I think that's what it is. It's so much of being a fan is about hope, because you don't always have success, but you're supposed to kind of always have hope. And I think that's what we're seeing taken away. And so, and also I think fans recognize that, like, this is a very talented team, and they just look like they don't want to play for the coaching staff, or they look unmotivated or whatever. And I think they're not living up to their talent level. And so that in past years, they were a bad team. This is a good team playing bad. The last point I want to make, I have to hop off now, but the last point I want to make, look at other quarterbacks. I forget what Teddy's making from the Broncos this year because the Panthers are paying the large portion of his contract. I think it's $3 or $6 million. It's somewhere in
like
that range.
4.5, I think, with
Look,
everything. For the Broncos.
4.5. Go
Denver.
Go look at highest paid quarterbacks by annual salary right now. Look at the guys making $4.5 million. All right. Do they look like they'd be putting up top? Like, they're not even game managers. They're low-level backups. The Broncos are paying Teddy like a low-level backup, and he's been a mediocre starter. That's quality investment every day. But I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm sorry I got to run. Sorry it was so short. But, hey, go Broncos, and let's hope they play well today.
Thanks. Enjoy the meals.
Yeah.
See you, John Wick. Go kill it today.
So, Mike, you've said it before, almost exactly what Zach said. That
Zach just jumps in, hit it, and quit it. That's just
I know.
Out.
I know. Doesn't let Cam get a word in, and then
just dips.
So Mike has said it too. Is he thinks that a lot of the love for Drew is based on the hope that like this QB carousel will end at some point. And do you want to expound on that a little bit, Mike? Like your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I basically said it all last year. Was like we've seen enough from Drew Lock to know that there is a very, very, very good chance that he's about where he's going to be. Especially when you consider any other type of gunslinger quarterback, a majority of gunslinger quarterbacks are going to be turnover prone. And if you're not able to put the mental aspect of the game with that, you're not going to be very successful. Do I want to see Drew Lock in the game? Yeah, but I want to see him in the game because of the things that Teddy can't do. Teddy isn't able, or not so much he's not able, he doesn't like to hit those dangerous throws, those deep throws where there's a possibility that he's going to throw an interception. Whereas Drew Lock is like, YOLO, and just throw the ball. Like, he doesn't care. Yeah. And, I mean, do I think that our record would be any different if Drew Lock started? No. I think we'd be exactly where we are now. But it would at least be exciting.
Yeah. What's the Robin Williams skit when he's talking about golf? We'll put a flag in it and give it hope. That's basically what
yeah.
That's basically, I guess, the way that, and I think for my sake, I still very much feel like there's enough tools there that if you're a staff or you're a quarterback coach or you're potentially an OC, there's probably some fantastic tools that you could work with. And if you are willing to stay patient and you are willing to groom with the guy, I think Drew could have the opportunity to be something like that. I really do. And now, granted, a lot of it has been his own doing. The interceptions and everything, those have been incredibly costly. And those, it doesn't even matter who you are in the National Football League. Turnovers will kill you as a potential starter in the National Football League. Just turnovers in general. They will kill you. And I think the very sneaky wild card thing that could potentially happen, Drew still has a year left on his deal. He still has a year left on his deal. So this potential new staff, I'm not in any shape or form saying that this is the way that the new coaching staff or whatever is going to be going that route, because if you had the opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, I'm not batting an eye and saying no at that. But it's just like, if for whatever reason they still feel that glimmer of in the hole and give you hope kind of deal, for Drew Lock, he still has a year left on his deal. And so if they want to truly build that staff around the type of skill set that Drew can certainly present in that type of offense, when we get to see that we could say for a full year, it's certainly a possibility. And especially since this quarterback class, if we talk about 2022, is a little bit mundane. It's a little bit, mid-tier, if you will. There's a lot of projects. Drew Lock, when he came into the league, was a project. You might as well just see what you got in it. So that's just, in essence, should we say, if the Broncos wanted to go that route. But if they wanted to go out and get, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, or fall in love with guys like Carson Strong, Matt Corral, Malik Willis, any of those guys, I'm not going to say no to that, because I think that there are enough projects that you can certainly develop.
Yeah, and I do think that Drew Lock has basically gotten the short end of the stick as far as coaching staffs. I think the offensive coordinator switch from Skangs to Shermer definitely put a big dent in any momentum that he had. And it just seems like he's been having the same problems over and over and over again, and that's from his rookie year to his second year to this year. So as much as I think that he could be a good quarterback with the right coaching staff, let's say you bring in another coaching staff next year and it's a good fit. I mean, you're still looking at another 2-3 years maybe until he can reach his, where he's supposed to be. I mean, we're looking at like a kind of a Sam Darnold situation. Like, I don't think Sam Darnold's a bad QB, but he was not in the right spot.
I know, which thus forces your hand to sign him to a 2-year, probably like, I don't know, serviceable, if you think he's a starter, serviceable starter money. So I mean, just it's one of those.
And then hope and pray.
Just pray.
Yeah. Looks like we got Prophet joining from the sidelines. Prophet, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How's it going?
Excellent. We finally figured out technology in this age.
I know. We had people asking about you if we were going to get you in here. I was like, we're trying.
Prophet was pressing the buttons on his tablet.
The 5 centuries ago, the technology was a little different. But we're coming to you live from the fired up tailgate here. We just got finished. Actually, we're still in the process of dealing with our charity raffle. So having a good time here. We've got, a couple hundred Broncos fans in attendance, and actually not too many Chargers fans, which we always welcome the opposing team's fans, but we're glad when they don't show up in mass, because we want as much orange and blue stadium as possible.
So, Prophet, are we still feeling the fire and the passion for the game, or are we kind of, people kind of slacking off and just done with it?
You guys know me. I'm here with orange-colored glasses. I wear them every week. It is harder and harder to be enthusiastic as the season goes on, but we are still in a playoff race. Can we make it? I believe we can. Will we make it? I believe we will. Have I been wrong before? Yes. Interpreting an oracle that is thousands of years old is not an exact science, but as long as there's a chance, I keep the faith.
All right, so let's get your key to victory and what you think the score is going to be, and then we'll let you get back to your charity.
All right. The key is the same as everyone else has been saying. We're up against the 32nd ranked rushing defense. We got to feed Flash Gordon, and we got to feed Williams. If we can control the clock, we can win the game.
Okay.
So, Prophet, before you go, what? Tell us about the cocktail for today.
The cocktail today is known as the Power Edge, brought to us by our sister over here, Breckenridge Distillery. It is a pear vodka with pear nectar, club soda juice, and a simple syrup that I made with brown sugar, cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, star anise. I think that's it. A whole bunch of in a very tasty glass. So for members of Bronco Country who have never come to our tailgate, this is the fire truck to look for. I'll show you the other side here. But we are in Lot C, just outside of Gate 10. There's the other side of the fire truck with United in orange. There's the Mile High Monsters posing pictures. Rescue Rob over there. But we're literally just outside the stadium in Lot C. So anyone who's watching this, you need to get your butt to the stadium. and you need to come to our tailgate. We're 100% charity tailgate, and we'll show you that.
All right, so what do you got for a final score?
Final score, Justin Herbert has the potential to be so explosive. That is the challenge. I'm going to go Broncos 24, Chargers 17.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you jumping in. We'll let you get back to your tailgate and tear it up, my friend.
All right, Broncos.
Thanks,
Yeah, go
brother.
Broncos.
All I heard was mixture of something, stars anus. That's
So all you're saying
all
is
I heard.
all you heard was alcohol. That's all you heard.
Yeah, and I don't even drink, so it's like.
Well, I love the name. You know, every week he has a different theme. The power outage. I like that.
Yeah, that would have been. So I did have one more question that I kind of wanted to give to Cam, kind of full circle here. So we were talking about signing extensions, rewarding players. Who do you think is the next big player that is going to be re-signed or extended?
Full circle. That was going to be Cortland with the addition of the with the Tim Patrick signing. Bradley Chubb, I think could be, depending on the way you look at it, maybe a logical candidate, depending on how you look at it. But I think people have a tendency to forget about the 5th-year option that was already picked up. So there's that flexibility there. I think it's I think if we're going to talk argumentative and for objectivity, because who knows what we're going to do with the quarterback position, I think Teddy. I think Teddy is going to be one that I think is worth monitoring, because if you go the young quarterback route, because everything is so TBD at this point. If you go the quarterback route, and right now, if we're going to be truly predicting and everything else, it seems a little bit more logical to predict a young quarterback than it is to put all your eggs in one basket and predict Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, any types of those situations, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, whatever. It just seems like keeping him around for bridge money, if you will, pun intended. Bringing him in for 10 some million, and we got Glenn stumping the potential return of Teddy Bridgewater. But I just think that Teddy is probably, if we're being honest, the logical candidate. Now, I think if you were talking franchise tag, I think that's going to be the fascinating one. I think.
Is there even anybody that's worth the franchise tag at this point? Because Cortland was the obvious. If we can't resign him, franchise tag him.
No, it probably was going to be Bradley Chubb if they decided not to pick up the 5th-year option. But even then, they may not even use their franchise tag, which, you know what? Good on Peyton, though. Really good on Peyton for not allowing that to happen. You use your franchise tag under the last resort that you can possibly have. And you were able to sign Cortland Sutton to an extension, keeping him here without your franchise tag. And Justin Simmons, he signed the tag, but you were able to lock up Justin Simmons. So, you no longer have to deal, should we say, even with the franchise tag this year, which is, that honestly should be every single team's MO. You should use the franchise tag under the last resort.
Because let's look at some of these players that are left over. We've got, that will be free agents. You have Jewell and Johnson. I can't see them giving franchise tag linebacker money to those guys. Malik Reed, same thing. Like edge rusher, franchise money would be massive for a guy like that. I had not considered that the Broncos would bring Teddy back. I'm just wearing the T-shirt that I had from earlier in the season, when things look good. But he wouldn't be franchise tagged, but I do see them wanting to sign him. But it's
that one,
Johnny, yeah,
the angry aviator, Stephen Weatherly.
I was gonna say Johnny stumped a guy that I think is throwing his hat into the mix, despite it made me want to throw my hat to the TV when I saw his play. when Jalen Hurts ran for about 40 yards. Anyway,
and right behind him, I was so mad.
He was running with him.
Yeah. But no, I think that Kenny Young, I think Johnny's right. I think that Kenny Young has really thrown his name into the mix as a guy that may not be franchise tag, but I think that maybe that's your likely contract extension guy. I think that if we're talking about potential new contract extensions, Kenny Young, and not to put on my orange color glasses again, but it'll be like so George Payton masterclass to trade Von Miller and get the second and third and get Kenny Young, and then in the next offseason have enough, or the very next offseason have enough money to bring Von back and then go get your quarterback. It would be like so, masterclass with Payton for that to happen. Am I predicting that to happen? No, because I don't want to live truly in a fantasy world with that. But it would be incredible.
Yeah. So at Teddy's press conference, it was DMAC actually that was kind of like pressing him on, how are the negotiations going with your restructure or with your resigning, bringing you back? What's going on with that? And, there's a 99% likelihood that none of the discussions have gone on, and we all know it, So I had felt that he was being kind of trolled in that whole situation. I didn't really think it was decent to do that to Teddy, but with Cam mentioning, that there's a high likelihood we're going to have a young quarterback on the roster next year. What are better options than that?
Yeah, I mean, unless you feel like, and that again, it's putting all your eggs in one basket. Not saying I'm against it or that I'm actually predicting it to happen, but it's just when you put all your eggs in one basket, saying, "Oh, he was a Minnesota guy." Bring in Kirk Cousins. Matt Ryan's available. He's 45 years old right now. Let's bring him in. Let's bring in, Russell Wilson, which would be very ironic, by the way, if Russell Wilson was a Denver Bronco because of everything that happened in Super Bowl 48 and the fact he won the starting job against the Denver Broncos in preseason, was a member of the Seattle Seahawks. It would be very ironic. Anyway, and then you got Aaron Rodgers with everything that unfolded in the offseason. It just, I don't know. It would just be pretty ironic.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna switch into the Chargers game. We're gonna hit the hot five, then we'll take a look at the injury report, and we'll go from there. All righty then.
Sounds good.
Oh.
Hey guys, my name is Kevin from the Charger Chat podcast. Thanks for having me on. We're super pumped to be here. 5 things that the Chargers need to do to beat the Denver Broncos. A few things, actually. The biggest one, number one, is Justin Herbert. So Justin has had a fantastic year so far. He's had games where he's setting records. He's had games where the offense couldn't get going. So I think that the number one thing that is going to be a problem for you guys is Justin Herbert. If he gets any kind of rhythm, if he starts getting confidence and finding areas of the field, starting to pick apart that intermediate range, that's a problem. And then if you guys try and shut that down, he's like the most accurate passer in the league past 20. So, you guys have played this a lot in the past. You remember the Phillip Rivers days. This is a totally different kind of quarterback. So we're beyond excited as a fan base for Justin, and I think he's gonna show up on Sunday. Secondly is our run defense. Our run defense hasn't been very good this year, to be frank. What needs to happen is that needs to shore up. And the good thing that happened for us this last week, this Sunday night when we played, when we played the Pittsburgh Steelers, our run defense showed up, and it was our best game of the season so far in terms of stopping the run. So that's what I am hoping that the Chargers can continue to do, because that has been basically we're not playing a two shell coverage where we're not letting anything past us. You got to tear us apart in the middle or run on us, and that's all we're really allowing. So if we can shore up that run defense, that's gonna be a problem. Other big thing that we've had that is a real pain for us is currently the drops that we've been experiencing in terms of our wide receivers and tight ends. Just they come at the most inopportune times, and it seems like we've been having a few of those. So I think if we can have one of those games where it's fairly mistake-free, if we can get those things not to happen and our guys can make the catches and do their work, that'll be great. That'll help us out a lot. One of the big things that's always been a problem for the Chargers is special teams. So we had a kicker, couldn't make anything in the beginning of the year, just got a new one, signed Dustin Hopkins from the Redskins, picked him up, and he's been lights out for us so far. He's won games for us. So hopefully he can continue his ways and we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. That's our goal there with special teams. And then just kick coverage, trying to pin you guys down inside the 25. A lot of people have been able to return on us, landing in the 25 to 35 yards. If we can shore that up, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. The big thing also is just, I'm not sure where you guys are at in terms of, your offense and what you've done so far this year. But the big thing that I have is the third downs, getting off the field. We have, for some reason, our defense in the last few weeks has let drives continue and just let guys get comfortable. Like we let Roethlisberger get comfortable on Sunday night at the end there in the fourth quarter. So I think third downs is going to be a big part of this game, because I think that's going to really decide what the time of possession is going to be. What we've seen so far in terms of people that have been able to beat us is if you keep our offense off the field. So if the Broncos find a way, and fingers crossed that they do not, if they find a way to control the time of possession, it's gonna come down to the last minute. We've been in all these games. Except for the Baltimore Ravens game, we've been in every single one of these games. It's all been one possession games, the games that we've lost. So I'm excited. This is going to be a great game. It's always fun to play the Broncos. I think out of all the AFC West opponents, you are my favorite of the three, which, we're still opponents, but the other two teams I have some disdain for. So always look forward to playing you guys. Looking forward to coming back and beating up on Melvin Gordon a little bit, because we got a little payback for him leaving the Chargers. So thanks for having me on. Super pumped for this Sunday. Let's have a good, safe game and get everyone healthy on the other side of this thing. And we're coming for you. We're coming for that W. So be ready.
I mean, isn't that kind of how it goes, though? Like, we hate the other three. Especially the Raiders. Like, no Raiders. Zach coming in and telling us what they had to eat there. That's not even cool. Mac and cheese, turkey, and fingerling potatoes with a roll and banana foster for dessert. That's not okay.
I wonder if the halftime meal gets better if the first half didn't
well, really bad. Just in case. Steak.
Well, I mean, Glenn, every meal tastes good if the team's playing. If the team's doing well, so
if we win the game in a blowout, you're getting a bowl of SpaghettiOs, and they don't even care. Yeah, that tastes fantastic.
Right? I don't know. Zach had me at mac and cheese, so
Did you not just blocked Segars? So
yeah.
All right. So I know that for today, Bobby Massey's out. I believe. Have we heard anything on Garrett Bowles? Is he still out?
Garrett Bowles is out.
Okay, he didn't get the two negative tests.
Nope. Shelby's out and Cleveland's out.
Shelby's out. Cleveland's out. Mike Boone, I'm assuming. Kareem Jackson's out too, right?
Yes, he is.
Caden Stern show.
Okay. So it doesn't. So I'm assuming.
And Bradley Chubb is active.
Okay.
So I'm assuming we're having Anderson at the left and Fleming at the right again, yes. Correct? Okay. Oh, that's I love Calvin Anderson with Joey Bosa. Hoofta. I would much rather, nothing against Calvin Anderson, but he's at this point he's not at Bowles level yet, and I'd rather have Bowles against Bosa. But beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Like next man up, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. I think that for. Should we just say, the Broncos offensive tackle position, I will say that we're finally starting to see depth unfold behind Garrett Bowles and everything, because Garrett Bowles had, for all intents and purposes, finally locked down the position. He finally locked down the left tackle position. So now we're starting to see, the depth behind them. And so I think that in the last handful of weeks, we saw it, unfortunately, not turn out the way we wanted to against the Philadelphia Eagles. But the week prior against Dallas, we saw a tremendous performance by both Fleming and Calvin Anderson, which, not to maybe to do a circle back here, but I mean, that should be your blueprint for today's game. I mean, for this game against the Los Angeles Chargers on the offensive side of the ball. So I think even though we want Garrett Bowles starting and we want Bobby Massey starting, I think this is the one thing for Bronco fans that they can finally hang their hat on, that we're finally starting to see the depth of this team, how good it is, how bad it is, whatever, so I mean, that's for at least the positive side of things. Calvin Anderson, I will say, actually has surpassed expectations in the times that he's been in there. There's been a game or two that he's maybe not looked the best, but I mean, he's also had not very many reps with the starting unit. So, but all in all, he looks pretty good.
Well, and I will say this, like over the last couple of years, it's been the offensive line is terrible. We need guards. We need tackles. Like it's so bad. If we went into next year with Bowles and Massey at tackle, I'd be okay. If we went in next season with Reisner and Miners at guard, I'd be okay. Mm-hmm. My one concern is Cushenberry. We're getting a lot of pressure coming up that middle, which is what's helping lead to sacks, is that he's not – when you got pressure around the edges, you can step up into the pocket. But when it's coming in the middle, where are you going? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
so I'm not saying he's terrible, but if you look at Cushenberry compared to Paradis or one of the other centers that we released within the last five years, like there's a big drop off.
Yeah, but I think that maybe that's just in essence why this game is a little bit more critical on a lot of factors for the Denver Broncos team, because of the run defense of the Los Angeles Chargers. Yep. It's been pretty bad. Like it's been pretty bad. And so usually when they generate pressure, it's from Bosa and the other side. And so if they're generating pressure from the inside, then that's usually bad news. And for Cushenberry's sake, I don't know whether it's just because of it's his second year, he's still getting his feet wet. But remember that the center position is also one that handles protections, formations, whatever of the offensive line. So I don't know if it's just still something that he's learning, and still something that he's getting adjusted to. But one thing too is that he's losing a little bit of leverage at times too in the pass blocking area, or just at times run blocking. So I mean he has. It seems like he's gotten better a few times in the last few weeks, but you need to put games together. You'll need to put games together, and so I think that for Cushenberry, and so I think that for the Broncos, they need to at least find some center depth there, and I think that's one of the amazing things about Quinn Miners, is that the Broncos have drafted a guy who is not position deficient, should I say. Right. Like you can't necessarily say, okay, he is truly a left guard, or he is truly a right guard, or he is truly a center. No, you could actually play him at right guard, and I think he would do just fine. I think you could play him at a center, and he would do just fine. He was the backup center in training camp. So I don't necessarily think he's relying on one position.
He played tackle too, so
and frankly, I think that Miners is one of those guys, if we're talking about rookies, that's sort of flying under the radar, and that he's played exceptionally well. He played really well in that Dallas game. I mean, for him and to be able to get pushed, I think from for pulls, I should say, on design runs, I think shows you the amount of confidence that Mike Munchak has with Miners in the run game.
Well, that was basically my key to the game, to winning the game is, we've seen when they have the guards pull is when we're starting to get some really good success on running the ball. So I feel like the biggest key to winning this game is having the guards pull and try to open it up, have Reisner and have Miners out there running with the running back, being a guy that running back can push into somebody else, or if he gets wrapped up, then the guard can come up and pick him up and carry him, something like that. But I feel like pulling the guards is the best way that we've gotten good yardage on runs. So I feel the pulling of the guards is what's going to be key to winning this game.
What about taking a lot of the elements from the Cowboys game that worked out so well for us? I mean, just the running was incredible. And in regards to the offensive line, and I've mentioned this on the Thursday show before, is one of the benefits, and Cam talked about the depth, is of the guys that we have presently, is with the exception of Bowles, they're all making short money in comparison to what a starting offensive lineman makes. So if we can get this unit to really gel, these young guys, and be highly effective, that money can be spent elsewhere on building the rest of the team and filling some of the gaps that need to be filled. And that's an advantage that not many teams have. Usually they pour a lot of money into that offensive line, and we're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, and to clarify, Rich had mentioned that Belly is not necessarily under the radar, as you said, and I agree with that. But one thing I was just going to say is just that I say it in terms of under the radar just because it feels like Baron Browning has lately gotten a lot of love, and obviously we all know Jonathan Cooper, Javonte Williams, Caden Stearns, who's going to get the start today. It just seems like he's certainly not, should we say, under the radar in terms of Broncos country, but in terms of, say, like people on the outside looking in, people aren't going to say, "Oh, Miners has actually played really well this year."
Well, and it's only his second start.
I want to say maybe second start.
Second, because he came in halfway through that. Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's definitely played exceptionally well.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into another topic I kind of wanted to talk about, and that's the linebackers and the defensive line. Now, we saw in the Dallas game, we had Deshaun Williams in the middle. We had Cooper and Weatherly on the outside, and then we had Browning and Young as our linebackers. But then we went to the Eagles game, and we had Reed back in there. Browning went out, so that didn't help. We had Purcell back in there. And so for me, it's like we saw so much chemistry between the defensive front of the Broncos in the Dallas game with the younger players in there, and we didn't see the same thing against the Eagles. So should they make that switch and go to Cooper and Weatherly or Chubb whenever he's back, and then Young and Browning and not Purcell in the middle?
Go ahead, Glenn.
That's the hard part is taking these guys that are the starters and benching them based on a one-game success rate, from the backups. So I think you have to give the starters their jobs back in the interim, but monitor it closely. Purcell does have a big cast on his hand. What effect is that having, or what effect did that have against Philadelphia? They will have been able to determine that in the film study, while watching that game. So I think you got to let the starters start and rotate those other guys maybe a little bit more frequently.
I will say, as far as Purcell goes, he has been struggling all year against the run. So that Purcell would probably be my biggest one, just because he has been struggling all year.
And to the linebacker point that you want to talk about there, my thing, and I brought this up on the Mainly Broncos podcast with Zach, it isn't so much that I think that Baron Browning and Kenny Young are capable, because it seems like we had seen that the weeks that they've been healthy. It has nothing to do with that. It's about the depth behind them. And so if something were to happen injury-wise, and something happens because of a play to Austin Eckler, out of the backfield, can potentially the depth, do its due, and play up to its potential. Micah Kaiser is not inactive. He came off of the IR today, this week, I should say. So there are at least some positive news there. But it's just, so I would just say Baron Browning and Kenny Young and the matchups of Austin Eckler and the backside of the backfield is probably one of my biggest things that I'm watching for in this game, because it's one of those things that's just like, not only should we say has it been this year, but just in multiple years prior, even with the Chargers, that we just don't seem to handle backside of the backfield all that well. And Austin Eckler is a dynamic weapon. He is. I think he is everything for as much as homegrown. I think a lot of us could potentially have felt with Phillip Lindsay and maybe underutilized or underused in the passing game, whatever, but it's just like Austin Eckler, the other local kid, is just 1,000 times better than potentially what Phillip Lindsay is because of his ability out of the backfield. And so I think that he just brings so much to the table that he helps move the yards and chains, consistently. I guess my question would be, what is the over and under of Keenan Allen getting like 15 targets in a game? I'm joking on this, but it's just like, it seems like every single time the Broncos play the Chargers, Keenan Allen is like having like almost 10 catches every single game.
Right.
Well, now it seems like they're doing the same thing with Mike Williams. Like they switched it. So now Keenan Allen is getting like those toss-ups, but then the majority is going to Mike Williams. He's only catching about half of them, but you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question mark for me is when you look at outside linebacker, because obviously Bradley Chubb is going to be the starter, no question. But then you have Malik Reed, who's shown that he's a capable pass rusher. You have Jonathan Cooper, who I believe is a better pass rusher. And then there's Stephen Weatherly, who I believe is better at filling holes and gaps and able to turn runners inside and outside instead of letting them get by him. So when you look at that, it's like, who do you have starting beside Chubb? Who becomes the rotational guys?
It's not hard for me. It's Jonathan Cooper.
I would agree.
And it's nothing against Malik Reed, but Malik Reed has just proven he belongs in the NFL. He belongs to be a piece of your defense.
Yep.
But Jonathan Cooper has enough in his repertoire and a developmental guy that could really turn into something special, that there's just really hardly any flaws, it seems, in his game, which is something that when I was watching his tape at Ohio State and stuff, that I just think that it was just one that it was a little bit shocking. Now, granted, I didn't know about the heart issue and stuff like that, but it was just something that was just a little bit surprising to me to see him when the Broncos drafted him in the 7th round. It was just like, wow, they drafted a guy that probably very well could have been a very early day 3 pick, let alone, a day 2 pick if teams were feeling, frisky, if you will, to draft. But it's just one that I think that, I just think that Cooper just also fits what Bradley Chubb could do and also help out your run defense exceptionally well with what they would want to do. And so just alone, Bradley Chubb coming back helps your run defense and also helps your pass rush. But if you can have the ability to have both Cooper and Chubb on both of those sides, your run defense has the capability to be pretty darn good, just with the ability to seal the edge.
So obviously, since we named him the Angry Aviator, we have a very soft spot for Stephen Weatherly in our hearts on this podcast. What are your thoughts on Stephen Weatherly?
I mean, for one, I absolutely respect the idea of a player playing exceptionally well in goggles. I was a freshman in high school. I was a freshman in high school playing basketball, and I wore goggles. I wore the rec specs. I absolutely respect the guy that has the ability to ball out wearing rec specs. So we'll start off with that. But no, I think that Stephen Weatherly
so and if you aired, you'd be wearing his jersey right now. You know that.
Exactly.
That's the next one I'm buying, Stephen Weatherly. I don't care if he's on the team next year or not. That's the jersey I'm buying next.
I think that for George Payton, though, it was nice to see him, dip his toes into some familiar waters, get Weatherly, a guy that might push Malik Reed. I mean, could throw himself into the ring that maybe he and Malik Reed are going to be vying for. Who do you actually end up having? Is it Malik Reed or is it Stephen Weatherly? I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. But yeah, I think that it's almost like the exact same argument of what we had with Jeremiah Tachu and Malik Reed. Who do you keep? Who do you stay kind of deal? But
Yeah.
I think that he's proven to be like a Malik Reed in a way. Like he's proven to be reliable. He's proven to be in a pinch when you've needed a guy like to create pressure. It's been one that I think that he's done an exceptional job with, and he's created, I think, valuable pressure. So like every single player wants to make a huge play, in key moments or in every single moment. But it just seems like whenever the Broncos, in the times when Weatherly's played, have needed a huge play, Weatherly's been the guy that had kind of stepped up to that occasion and been that guy. So if you were a predicting man and you were to say, oh, Bradley Chubb's going to make the big play, what? And so all of a sudden you're pulling out the goggles yourself, like, is that Stephen Weatherly? So yeah.
So do we see a situation where next year we come in with all four? We have Cooper on one side, Chubb on the other, Reed backing up one, and Weatherly backing up the other.
Reed's going to get good money on the open market. I don't see us bringing him back if we don't plan on him starting.
Yeah, I think it's truly going to end up being a Weatherly and Reed thing.
Because honestly, it didn't mean to interrupt you, but Peyton traded for Weatherly, so we gave up something to get him. So in my mind, it's like that's going to be your priority. Would be the person that you gave something up for to get.
It was like a 7th round pick or something along those lines.
But that's still you still traded for him. Like you gave up something to get that player.
Yeah. And I just think that it also means a lot that even to further that point that Peyton clearly loved the player. Like he loves the player enough to trade for him, and that he loved the player to potentially value him. So obviously Reed has been here the longest. Even more longer than George Payton. So, typically you would think that he would get the nod, right? But no, he's a player. And so typically it's the general manager that really would have the say on roster decisions, that kind of thing. And so I think that in a case, I really would say that it seems like Stephen Weatherly has this very slight edge in Malik Reed of who you would want to keep. And he's proving him right too. That's the thing is Weatherly's proving Peyton right.
All right, so here's the big question before we go into score predictions. We are now, most of our next games are all division games. We've got, 5, 6 in the next some odd weeks, 7 weeks?
5 and 7.
And obviously I never want anybody tanking, nor does anybody ever tank. But do we want the Broncos to make a playoff push? Or do we not want them to make the push to make sure that we don't have any coaches come back?
Well, so you and I touched on it a little bit before the show about in some ways it really feels like it's a win-win situation for Broncos fans. Let me clarify this. like it's win-win from the standpoint of if you beat the Los Angeles Chargers, you are very strongly in the playoff hunt. You're very strongly in that hunt. And 2, you are now riding a lot of emotions going into the Sunday Night Football game that just got flexed, which it's a sub-bar, but made all the sense in the world to flex that game for the Kansas City Chiefs because, one, the Broncos only had one primetime game, and they did not even have a Sunday Night Football game, let alone a Monday Night Football game. So it made a lot of sense to flex a game for the Broncos, should we say, and Chiefs, for a potential Sunday Night Football game. So it made a lot of sense. And so for that standpoint, it's a must-win in that regard. Like, it is a must-win for the Broncos to continue to be staying in that playoff hunt. Why is it another must-win? Well, because it gives you, not to use a tanking adage because it's not tanking, but it puts you in some better draft position, if you lose. And so for anybody, I'm not saying you lose intentionally, but it's just like if you were to lose, because I just hate the whole tanking sometimes narrative because, it sort of inherits this losing mentality that no one should ever at all, have as far as a franchise. You should never have a losing mentality. So I just think that in essence, it's sort of win-win because you can have higher draft position and Do you have the opportunity to, win a key game that can get your all the emotions of that Sunday Night Football game next week that got flexed?
I mean, you could, because regardless of how the rest of the season goes, Cam, you don't see this coaching staff being. I mean, maybe some elements of it, but you don't see the head coach being back next year, right?
Well, according to Mike Kliss, it seemed like seemed like if the Broncos win 4 or so games, there's a possibility Vic may end up being back this year or back next year. I don't see it. I really don't. And for one, Tom McMahon should have been gone like a year ago, and he's still here. So, yeah, I just Vic Fangio's just dying with his team, if you will, dying on that hill with his team or his staff, I should say, and that's how it's going to go. And I think that they just can't. That I just can't see it ever happening. I really can't.
Yeah, and I think the part that I'm kind of looking at is the side of the players. Like, we know that, or at least there's been reports that Fangio's lost the locker room. And obviously players never want to lose, nor do they try to lose. But at the same time, at little spurts of this season, we've seen that the players just didn't care. There were certain plays or certain parts in the game where it looked like there was no effort being given whatsoever. And so from that point of view, it's, are we going to see a kind of a lack of effort within these next 5, 6, 7 games?
We might. I mean, one of the plays that, to your point, Mike, that really just sort of reinvigorates what you were talking about, and players giving up on the coaches, that kind of thing, was the Thursday night game against the Cleveland Browns. And they were in field goal position, if you will. The Browns were. It was 3rd and 2. The Browns got called a very critical false start, but it was very late in the game where you knew it was going to be a run, whether it was 3rd and 2 or whatever happened with that false start penalty. So it was 3rd and 7, and you still gave up all that yardage for the first down. So it's like you knew exactly the type of scenario. You knew exactly everything that was going to happen. And Dearness Johnson goes and almost like the Red Sea goes for like 12 yards. I mean, I don't know. It made me really frustrated to see that type of thing unfold. And there's other examples. I was there in person for the Broncos against the no coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. We were there for that, which was a very uninspiring game. And then, of course, the high win against the Dallas Cowboys, come back and you lose to the Philadelphia Eagles, which honestly, it makes, and as great as it was to win the first 3 games, it honestly makes the loss against the Philadelphia Eagles that much worse, because you beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, you beat the New York Giants, you beat the New York Jets, and you lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, a team at that particular point in time was not really the greatest team in the NFC East. So, I mean, it was just really, really disappointing, and it's been at times really disappointing from the staff.
Yeah. Let's see. We'll get a question, then we'll do the final score, and then we'll go because we're getting close to game time. Cameron, do you think that the reporting relationship might have something to do with play on the field, i.e. Peyton and Vic being at the same level right now?
See, here's the thing and it's actually the Kenny Young trade that sort of has me thinking somewhat about still a little bit of belief in Vic Fangio. But it's just like, I just think that at the same time, though, it's just like, I just don't think that there's just been times where George Payton should even be all that convinced that Vic Fangio is going to be here long term. And because he gave him every single sort of resource available to this defense in the offseason. Like, he gave him Kyle Fuller. He gave him Bryce Callahan, he didn't do that. I meant Ronald Darby. He gave him Ronald Darby. And so I just think that he gave him still these resources. He even re-upped Vaughn's option. And granted, that's not necessarily a Vic Fangio thing, but he re-upped Miller's options. So there were so many different, defensive tools on the table.
Cornerback first round too.
Yeah, exactly. Patrick Surtain in the first round. So he gave them all these resources, and for them to, in essence, not play for him, the players, I think there's some argument there, but also just being outcoached in every single game and looking completely lifeless too on the sidelines at times. The one thing that really stood out to me in the Philadelphia Eagles game was he looked lifeless after the game we just saw against the Dallas Cowboys. He just looked lifeless. There was a missed field goal, and he just sort of sits back, just like, oh, wow, another missed field goal. And I just, when you have that sort of mixed with everything else, it really looks bad. So I just think that there's been a level of change, in my opinion, with George Paton. Now, granted, if there's been a level of change with Paton, make the decision now. You had the bye week. You might as well have made the decision now, which, I mean, I think that a lot of people in Broncos country would have been okay with that, to make the change now, or even just making coaching changes in general.
Yeah.
It's just anything to sort of just make it seem like the Broncos were doing something. But, I mean, I give Paton the props of, saying that, let's get out of this. You're still in a playoff hunt, that kind of thing. So I give him props to the show Vic as far as getting out of it, but he's clearly dying on the hill. Vic is.
All right, so let's go with our game predictions before we head out, because we got 7 minutes.
We got a bolt.
Pun intended.
So Glenn, who do you got?
I hate to do it, but San Diego or LA, sorry, Chargers 31-17.
I actually had the Chargers winning too. Zach was on the podcast we did. Zach was really the only one that picked the Broncos to win. It was me and Zach, and I actually predicted the Chargers to win because, again, everything that we had seen with the loss of the Philadelphia Eagles, there just still was nothing. There's still nothing for me to see evidence-wise consistently on a week-in and week-out basis for me to be like, all right, the Broncos are going to come out and they're actually going to upset the Chargers. Like, there's just no evidence week in and week out. That said, I do think that Pat Shurmur, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Pat Shurmur being back on the sideline, I think is actually a good thing for the Broncos. I say that with a huge caveat. If they take the Dallas Cowboys game plan that they learned against Dallas and they have the ability to run the ball effectively and just simply run the football. So I think that if they can do that, I think it'll be a much closer game, although I do think the Chargers come out on top, and I actually have it 24-21 Chargers.
I think I had Lennon says Broncos 24-23. I think on Tuesday I had it at Chargers 28, Broncos 17. Just because at this point, I can't trust that the offense is going to score more than 17 points. Like, we've seen them face teams that are not as good as the Chargers and couldn't put up 20 points. So until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to go with the Broncos scoring under 20 points. And I think that there's going to be a lack of pressure on Herbert, and he's just going to be able to throw the ball. So I think it's going to be 28-17, but I hope I'm wrong. Prove me wrong, please.
Yeah. And do a quick shout out for a bold prediction that I did on the pod. I actually predicted that Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy would have a combined 150 yards and a touchdown each.
Okay.
I think that especially with the lack of touches for Cortland, I could see a huge game. Asante Samuel's out, which is for a rookie being out, that's a huge loss for them. And I actually am really, really excited for a Jerry Jeudy and Chris Harris Jr. matchup for the Denver Broncos.
That's really fun.
Yeah, so it's going to be really exciting to see Jerry Jeudy lined up potentially on Chris Harris Jr. So, I don't know. So with that, I think that they could very well have 150 yards combined and 2 touchdowns.
All right, so that's going to do it for us. Go ahead and keep throwing your predictions down in there so we can keep receipts and let you know if you're wrong. But make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on notifications so you can catch all of our content when it's posted. Also, make sure you're tuning into all the other podcasts. We got Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. We have the MHRT podcast that goes every Thursday at 7654. We have Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue every Friday at 7654. And Cam, go ahead and let them know when they can tune into your podcast, the Mainly Broncos podcast.
You guys can tune into it every, should I say, as of right now, every Tuesday morning. It gets uploaded at midnight. And then you guys can also listen to it on Friday mornings at midnight as well. So we do it 2 times a week. You guys can follow the Twitter handle, social media handle at Mainly Broncos. You can follow myself at Cameron Parker PO. And Zach Segars appeared on the podcast as well that you guys can follow. So Zach_Segars and the terrific work that he does over at Mile High Sports. So make sure you follow him. And Matty Moles as well. Matty Moles at Matty Moles Pod as well. A few of the other guys on the podcast. So yeah, it's always a pleasure, man, to be a part of this with you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's always fun having you on here. And you can also catch all of our audio versions of all the podcasts on all the major podcast streaming services. All the links are down in the description below. We love you all. We love Broncos country. Go Broncos, and we're going to end it with a mile high five before we get to the game. Everybody ready? Arms out to the side. Mile high five! Boom. Done. Here we go.